Buckle up.
Because it's going to be a long ride.
It's going to be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're going to tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm Katie.
And I'm Michae.
It is finally October. It's finally spooky season. Our first spooky season on the pod. If you don't know, this is my personal favorite time of year. Pretty sure Michaela loves this time of year. You know, I don't know if on the same level as me, but pretty darn close. She's also a spooky girly.
Yeah. I like the overall vibe and aesthetic. It's very pleasing to me. I really like the spooky decorations and such. Halloween, I like Halloween. It wasn't my favorite in college because I always felt very pressured to dress up in like certain costumes and I never wanted to. I always wanted to be something funny.
Yeah.
And no one ever thought that was funny. No one ever got my costumes. So I didn't love it in college as much, but I think I have more of an appreciation for it now that there's like less pressure. I don't know, that sounds weird, but for some reason it feels like there's less pressure in Halloween post-college for some reason.
I agree with you. I'm definitely not a huge fan of like the holiday as it is in like adult terms. I just more like the season. It's kind of same with Christmas too. Like the holiday day just kind of feels so like, but the season leading up to it is the best part in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I definitely loved Halloween more as a kid, and our group of friends went trick-or-treating until it was like no longer acceptable, and people were like, "This is for children. Get off of our property." But we drug it out till the last possible. Like, we were trick-or-treating in late middle school, so if that tells you anything. And I think just a lot of, like, childhood nostalgia wraps around me this time of year, especially in those, like, late elementary school, middle school years, even, like, early high school, ding-dong ditching, going to haunted houses, like hanging out with each other on Halloween night. But the main thing is scary movies. Our friend group that Michaela and I were in when we were younger, that was like our big thing before we started drinking, was watching scary movies, which we talked about in our orphan episode a little bit. And to kick off this spooky season, we are going to be counting down our favorite scary movies.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was going through and making this list and realizing just how many scary movies I've seen, which I hate scary movies. Like, I don't watch them by myself. I would never go out of my way to watch one. It's more like of an experience with a group of friends. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, I feel like we've pretty much seen every scary movie from like 2008-ish and on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's because that's literally what we did every single weekend up until then we were like partying on the weekends. But yeah, that was our whole routine, was just like watching a bunch of scary movies, getting freaked out, which those are like fond memories now, which are what a lot of mine on the list are going to be more so geared towards, like just the memories I have with them.
Yeah, we're not necessarily ranking them on like any sort of qualities that they're supposed to have, like scariness or like plot or anything like that. I think it's just more
our personal favorites.
Yeah,
which is kind of
like our experience.
What we've done with all of our ranking episodes before. It's all like personal preference that some things stand out to people more than others. So before we jump into this, Katie, I just want to ask you, like, what do you look for in a scary movie nowadays? Like, what do you like in them?
Nowadays, I definitely am not as much of a scary movie connoisseur as I once was. That's a really good question. I think I do enjoy a good plot. I think so often scary movies fall into tropes. It's like one of the easiest dramas to have tropes in. So I like this new age of scary horror movies that's coming out now. I guess you could call them with like the Jordan Peele movies, where it kind of has a modern day like spin on it. There's more things that scare us than ghosts and like the Exorcist type stuff. However, I don't know, I feel like that may get old at some point too. I don't want to get attacked for saying that. Don't come at me. I love Jordan Peele movies, obviously. So yeah, I do like a plot. I like twists and turns. I like to be afraid, but I don't want that to be the only thing going on. I like to be immersed in the world at the same time, because I feel like that makes it easier for me to get scared. When it's like gripping and you kind of have to pay attention to enjoy the film, that's when it's even more scary because you're like a part of the world trying to figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't love a lot of gore in scary movies. Like, that's not really my vibe.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to see like buckets of blood going everywhere. I more like the psychological kind of thrill. And like a little bit more of like a realistic situation type film. I think those are scariest to me. I do like some of the haunting ones or the paranormal ones. However, I think there is a very fine line that paranormal films walk between being like really cool and psychologically scary and cheesy and over the top and kind of campy. So I feel like that's kind of tricky to differentiate at times. But yeah, I'm with Katie. I do now. So as I was making my list, I realized a lot of the scary movies that I like more now are like either action horror or like psychological horror, where it's a little more I don't really know how to explain that. I have some examples later on that I'll get into that kind of better explain, I guess, those subgenres. But yeah, I don't want just like jump scares for the sake of jump scares. I don't want people getting killed just for the sake of people getting killed. I like for there to be a little bit more of a plot, but I don't necessarily like expect a lot of character development in them. I'm more kind of going for like an overall vibe and experience within the film. And Katie, I don't think with what you said about the Jordan Peele movies, I think there's something to be said of how cool those movies are, and obviously we love them. We've covered Us, Antebellum. We didn't officially cover Get Out, but we did talk about that a bit in our Us episode. So we do really like those. However, I do think that there is something to be said for just being able to sit down and check out and enjoy a movie without having to think about it, which I think is what could maybe phase out if people just want, you know, like just something to entertain them. I find that in books sometimes where I'm like, when I'm reading some more like fantasy series, that then I'll like throw in just like a cheesy contemporary just because I'm just like, I just want to check out for a hot second.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to really have to be paying that close of attention. That I think that might kind of be where we could be headed to.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what you're looking for. Obviously, when you sit down to like pick a movie, you have something in mind that you're in the mood for. And I think this time of year, people are in the mood for these types of movies sometimes. Obviously, we're not going to be talking about like The Nightmare Before Christmas or Halloween Town. That's like a separate genre of like Halloween movies. We're talking about like scary horror movies.
Katie and I were each just going to do our top 5. However, I texted Katie this morning and was like, I need a 6th added on here. I was having a tougher time narrowing it down than I thought. So we decided to do our top 6 scary movies. And then obviously we have our honorable mentions. Katie, how are you doing today?
Today I'm fine. I had, once again, the streak of like having good week or like good time period did not last. Not gonna really like get into anything, but the Tuesday night after the debate, something rather traumatic happened, and I've just been riding the struggle bus since that night, and I didn't think I was going to be able to record this week, but I was feeling good today. I went for a run last night, and then I went for one today, and I'm just feeling good. I feel like clear-headed. I just wanted to record. I just wanted to do something because I haven't really been doing anything. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't even like told Mikhail what happened, and it's just like kind of hard for me to talk about right now, but yeah, it's hard times, and anybody who's listening, I guess, like, you're not alone if you're going through hard times. My therapist has been contacted. Her and I will be having a session earlier than we had originally scheduled. So I'm trying to be proactive about the situation, and yeah, I just appreciate having this outlet to like expel my creative energy, I guess, and talk about something that I love, which is scary movies and Halloween. So
yeah, I'm glad that we have this. I think that's been something that both of us have said has been really important to us, especially in quarantine here.
Yeah.
And ever since the pandemic hit, just have something to be looking forward to and a creative outlet to keep ourselves from going absolutely crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
Katie and I watched the debate together, and that was
Mhm.
just a
Yeah.
rough time.
That
It
was
a rough,
already
rough
like mentally debilitating, and then the night just went so downhill from there. But yeah, the debate, a hot mess. Trump now has coronavirus. I don't think you guys come to this podcast to hear us talk about world news, but obviously we acknowledge these things that are going on. We know that they're happening.
Yeah.
How are you doing? How was your week?
My week was actually pretty fine. I'd say it was like average. It wasn't necessarily great. It wasn't necessarily bad. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of riding that middle line right now. I've just been trying to get some reading in. And I mean, it's the same old shit, people, every week. I read and I paint and I do this podcast and I work. Like, really, what more do you expect to get out of
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
That's about it.
How's your TikTok doing?
It's doing, I think, fine. I'm still getting some attention on my very first painting video that went kind of not like viral, but it was trending for a while. So I still that retrended again. I don't really know the lingo. And then a
Right.
second one of mine was like somewhat trending. I don't know. It's going good. I have a lot of fun with it. So I'm gonna try to
Good.
get a couple more paintings done this weekend so then I can like stock up videos because I know on TikTok like the algorithm favors when you're posting really frequently, but I'm not really planning on posting besides like these painting videos and like monthly wrap-ups, which are then once a month of what
Yeah.
I'm reading. So I'm just gonna try to like get ahead this weekend and maybe do like 3 paintings. So then I have some content built up for a while. So
Right.
I mean, obviously, I already would make them without it, so it's just doing them and posting them. Should we jump on in? Do you have anything else to add before we get started?
No, I don't really have anything else to add.
Alrighty, so my number 6 scary movie was a late ad, which is why I was like, crap, I think I need this number 6 one. I kind of forgot about this movie, which is sad, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that is such a great movie. And that is Hush on Netflix.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I completely forgot about that too.
So good. I love the concept. I love the home invasion aspect because home invasion is super unsettling to me, and in scary movies, while I don't want to ever think about my home getting invaded, that is something that genuinely scares me. So then seeing that on screen I think only like amplifies that fear even more. And then the fact that the main character is deaf just makes it all the more tense and suspenseful because there's not a lot of sound going on, and then when you see the dude like creeping around behind her and you're like, but you can't even hear that he's behind you. It's just
Yeah.
it's so cool. But the thing that I love the most about it is that the girl is actually such a badass and like a really smart character, where I feel like there are so many dumb people in scary movies, and that is
Yeah.
just something that really grinds my gears with scary movies, how just absolutely idiotic people can be. But she is so resourceful and very smart and very cunning, so I liked her
Yeah.
as a main character. Yeah, it was just something really different. I think that's one of the like true horror films that I've seen within the past few years, because like I said, a lot of the other ones are more like action horror or like psychological horror, where I think this I would classify more just as like horror overall. I don't really know. Someone
Yeah.
could come at me with that, but it just feels more in that like classic box than some of the other ones do.
Right.
That's my 6th.
Okay, actually, I don't feel that bad about this because I checked and it has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is freaking wild. We need to rewatch this.
I was shocked when I saw that.
But you know,
so
when we were younger, we watched movies and like thought they were dumb, or like when we were less educated about film, which I feel stupid saying that, but like when you don't know what to look for, it's like things can be stupid, but going back and rewatching, we like actually really appreciate it. You know, like Cabin in the Woods, I saw that when I was younger and was like, this is so dumb, but then like rewatched and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of good.
That's one
When
that I would
people
like
like
to
it.
rewatch, because you said that. Because
Yeah.
I remember we watched it and we were all so not impressed with it, and then you told us, you were like, actually, this is good.
Yeah, so we should rewatch this movie, but
I think we should.
anyways, guys, it's called The Loved Ones. It's directed by Sean Byron. I don't know. Basically, back in the day, like I said, when Michaela and I's friend group had all these strings of sleepovers where we watched scary movies, there was a lot of pressure to like choose a good scary movie. I don't know if you remember that, but like if you're the host, the pressure's on you to have like a good scary movie. If somebody's like, this is stupid, then your world is shattered. You failed. You failed at the family video going to get the scary movie. Your mom spent $5 for nothing. Basically, we had a party at Michaela's house. Not a party, a sleepover.
It was my birthday.
It was oh, okay. Happy birthday.
Not my birthday now.
The girl in the friend group at the time suggested this movie, and it was just, the experience just sticks out in my mind. Okay, if you haven't seen this movie, it's about a girl who like is a loser and like basically kidnaps the hot guy at school and like makes him be her prom date. It's freaking whack, and there's some incestuous vibes going on with her and her dad. It's just a wild ass ride. I think I remember like everything about it, but apparently I don't, because apparently it's a really good movie. But it's just a wild ride, and the experience of all of us just like screaming and laughing at the same time sticks out in my mind so vividly. And it's still like a running joke in our friend group to this day. So
is that it?
That's my number 6.
Because then I'll tack on, because that was my number 5. So
I'm sorry,
just
I
jump
didn't
in
want
here.
to steal your thunder.
No, I figured you would have this one on here.
Okay,
and that's why
cool.
when I was debating, I'm like, if one's got to get the boot, it would have been the loved ones. But I'm like, I don't want it to, because I feel like Katie's going to have that one and we can chat. Yeah, like Katie said, it's an absolute wild ride. So the girl and her dad give a lobotomy to the mom and then try to do it to the boy. So I so distinctly remember them drilling a hole in his head and like pouring water in it. Absolutely wild. She's like dancing with her dad, and then she's like, but it's you I've loved all along, Daddy. And the 8 or 9 of us little girlies screamed at that moment when she was like, it's been you all along. And we're all like, what the fuck? She loves her dad. Ew. Okay. It's a wild ride. And then Katie, I don't remember much about this movie either. I remember the lobotomy. I remember the pit of like lobotomized people underneath their house. And do you remember the ending scene when she refuses to die and she is like army crawling across the road? She has like glass shards in her arms. She's been run over by a car and like flipped over the top of it, and she is just refusing to die. She's just crawling. It's not really scary. It definitely is more, or maybe I don't know. Is it scary? I don't remember ever being scared by it. I remember more being like, what the hell is this? And this is trash. But the am I not pretty enough?
Yeah.
That song will forever be stuck in my head, and I will never not remember it. So it's got to make the top list. It's more about the experience with this movie than the actual movie.
Exactly. My number 5 is The Haunting in Connecticut, directed by Peter Cornwell. So it's the first one in that like franchise or whatever. I kind of like forgot exactly what happened in this movie, but then it stood out in my mind as being like really scary and kind of like, again, just a wild ride. And I remember the experience of watching it and just genuinely being horrified by it. And honestly, the plot is really interesting. And I remember the one thing that did stick out in my mind when I was thinking back to this movie is the dumbwaiter in the old house, and that being like used as this super scary, like who's in the dumbwaiter, who's going up and down in the dumbwaiter, because it's like this family moving into or like renting this really old house so that they can be closer to the hospital because their son has cancer. And apparently it's based on true events, but then like son or whatever is like distance himself from like what actually happened. I don't know, so it's probably not exactly true, obviously, but I don't know. I don't want to get too much into the plot, but it's like an enjoyable scary movie to watch. And I like haunting movies that have a bad guy or like a scary figure that ends up not actually being like having bad intentions, and the whole time they're just trying to get the people in the house or the people that are being haunted, they're just trying to get their attention, and then like they end up being good in the end. And that's kind of what happens in this. I don't want to give it away really, but I don't know. I just remember this one as like genuinely being scary and crazy. But yeah, I don't know why this movie sticks out. It's creepy and it's entertaining.
The cover of that one bothers me. Isn't that the one where like all the crap is coming out of the kid's mouth? Ugh.
Yeah.
My number 4 is the very first scary movie that I ever remember watching, and that is When a Stranger Calls. This was like I said, the first scary movie that I saw, and it still burns like so deeply into my mind. I can remember so many specific moments of it. And I think the creepy aspect of this one was again the home invasion, but two, the fact that this girl was babysitting when this was happening, because I saw this at an age when I was babysitting. So it was just very scary for the time in my life that I was at. We talked about this in Mother. Home invasion just really makes me so uncomfortable watching it on screen.
Yeah.
Because that's just, your home is your safe place, so then to have someone violate that, I think is just like a next level of creep factor for me. And this makes it super unsettling of her being harassed. And then when the cop calls her and she's like, stop calling me, and then he's like, we've traced the call, it's coming from inside the house. And then like I will remember that moment forever. That scene is so creepy. It's such like a classic scary movie and situation going on in it. I feel like this is it was a good introduction to scary movies for me, because it wasn't necessarily like super gory, or there weren't like ghosties. It was just straight up a bad guy like trying to harass this babysitter. And yeah, I think the situation is a little too realistic. I did watch the trailer, and I didn't rewatch any of these in preparation because y'all know I was not gonna watch any, but I did rewatch the trailer of this, and I still got so many chills. Like, it still just creeped me out, even how many years later. It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, that's a good one. I figured you were going to put that one on because I think you watched that. I don't think I was there when you guys watched that, like, for the first time. And I remember you guys always talking about that, and I, at that point, really hadn't seen any scary movies, so I was like, oh, I want to watch that.
It was so creepy. I even remember, like, going to the video store and renting it. Like, that's how vividly I remember this movie. I remember Allie dumping, like, her sock of change out on the floor of the family video to find quarters for the gumball. Like,
oh my God.
It's so vividly burned in there. But
yeah, I know some of these, like when I was looking online to make sure I wasn't missing any, like looking at the covers, I can see them on the shelf at the family video and just being scared of even the covers. Oh my gosh, it's so weird like how these things stick with us. Yeah.
I always hated being at work in the morning. So I worked at Family Video / still kind of do. I still have my keys. I work here and there. But I worked there after high school and all through college. Like, I've worked there for 5 years, and every single day, it never got any less creepy for me to walk past the movie racks that had Orphan on it.
Yeah.
Every day I was always haunted by freaking Esther. But you're right. That's how when I see these covers, I'm like, oh, I remember where that was and where that was.
My number 4, I couldn't keep this one off the list. I've talked about this movie, I feel like so many times. I'm annoyed with myself for bringing it up again, but my list has to have Us on it, directed by Jordan Peele. I feel like it has the scary pop-out scenes and the idea of like doppelgangers and seeing yourself, but it's like a bad version of yourself, is terrifying to me. And I think Lupita's performance is so chilling. Again, people, we've talked about it before. Let's move on. But I just think the twists and like the psychological stuff and just trying to like keep up with what's going on. Again, that like immersive, you know, you want to keep up with the characters and figure out like what is going on in this world, but it's also like pop out and scary, and like Elizabeth Moss's character is so like creepy and scary. I feel like at this point I can't really be scared of this movie anymore because I've seen it so many times. I think it's past the point of being scary for me, but the first time I saw it was such a fun like scary movie experience, so I had to put it on the list.
I left Us off of my list because I know I'm like, Katie's got that covered. Like, I don't need to throw that on here, but that movie is fantastic. Yeah, if you haven't already listened to our episode about it, go back. I do really like that one. I am not as desensitized to that movie yet as you are, so don't catch me viewing that on my own time, but anytime Katie wants to watch it, you know I'm down. My number 3 is The Belko Experiment. I had a hard time deciding if that truly belonged on this list, but then I did look up like what genre it falls into, and it falls into the action horror that I was talking about before. So I'm like, I'm putting it on here then. Have you seen it, Katie?
I don't think so. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so it is about this one office. I don't remember what country it's in, but it's like an American business and
Oh
this
my God.
office somewhere else.
I do know what you're talking about. Sorry,
do?
keep going.
Okay. So for folks who haven't, it's basically this office gets on lockdown. All the people have these little like tracers in the back of their heads, which they think are in case of like they get kidnapped because they're in a country where it's not super safe, when really it's little bombs. So then the whole building goes on lockdown, and then it's like, you kill, and then this voice comes over and is like, you kill 4 in the next hour, or we kill 8, and then like people's heads explode. It's an absolute trip. I think this is the kind of movie that I can watch by myself and not be super freaked out, mostly because it is more like psychological and it's not as like jump scary. There are certain moments, but it's not really that bad. But I love this movie for the look of how human nature is and how different people react under the same circumstances when they're faced with life and death, and kind of how some people go to that like brutal side and other people are more like the peacemakers. It's very like Lord of the Flies meets like Stanford Prison Experiment. Like,
Yep.
that it's just all about human psychology, and I think it's unsettling and fits more into the horror realm because it's not so far removed from real life. So watching it, you can think of how you would react, and that's kind of the fun of it, I think, is watching it and being like, okay, well, if I was trapped like this, you know, like what would I be trying to do? Because there are very clearly these divisions made in the movie of people who were like, we gotta round people up and kill them, and Tony Goldwyn, my main man, starts like separating old people off to the side to like basically kill and lining them up to shoot them like execution style. And then there's this other group who's like, no, we need to find a way out, we gotta fight whoever's doing this, and basically it all dissolves from there. And it's just wild. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend
I
it.
need to see that. That sounds really good. I don't know how I haven't seen that with you.
I don't know either, but I do own it, Katie, so we'll have to get together sometime and watch it. It's really, really good.
Let's do that. We should get together and watch that and The Loved Ones.
You know what I was just thinking about with The Loved Ones? We should watch that for my birthday this year. When
let's do it.
Or when Katie, Olivia... I keep saying your name. Olivia and Allie are over.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Our number 3 is Scream 4, directed by Wes Craven. Is this on your list at all?
No, but it was in my honorable mentions because I love Scream 4.
I freaking love this movie, and it's so weird because it's like not the original like Scream franchise. It is, but it's like kind of a reboot, I guess, which obviously I don't love those. But this movie came out in like 2011, so it was kind of our generation's introduction to this franchise and introduction to like the slasher type movies. I love the twist that happens at the end. I love the corniness of it, but it's also like genuinely scary sometimes and entertaining to watch. I like how it plays on these like scary movie tropes that we were talking about before, of like the pretty girl and the gay guy like can't die or something. Like these two nerdy kids who are just like pointing out all the tropes and stereotypes that happen in scary movies, and then these characters find themselves in a scary movie basically. Just so interesting and fun, and it's kind of like an homage to scary movies. And I love the beginning with all the fake starts. I just think that's so hilarious and such a quirky part of this movie. It has so many famous people in it. Courtney Cox and her ex-husband Dewey. Dewey is his character's name, but that's just I love them. Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, I love her in this.
I forgot that she was in that too.
I had the biggest crush on her in this movie. I think her hair just rocks, and just she was so cool. I don't know. Again, it's just like the experience of watching this movie for the first time. It sticks out in my mind for some reason. I was watching this. I think we watched it at Allie's house.
I think so. Just
a good time, a good night. 2011, we were in like 8th grade. So we probably watched it either in 8th grade or our freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Those formative years. And then we probably went out ding dong ditching or went to a haunted house or corn maze or a football game or something.
I do not get the point of haunted houses. You will not catch me at one ever again for the rest of my life. I don't get why anyone would want to pay to purposely be scared. I mean, if that's your form of entertainment, cool. It is just so not my idea of fun.
I think we talked about this on the pod before, but my mother used to really enjoy contributing to our scary experiences back in the day when we were younger. She would always like suggest movies that she knew like from her childhood, which ended up not being like as super scary. But she would like take us to these haunted things. She took us to like a haunted tree farm one time. And then this other time she took us to this haunted house, crazy, like it was a really long haunted house with like a lot of twists and turns, and it was an experience and traumatizing for Michaela, to say the least. She exited the premises before she finished the haunted house. Several of the girlies did not make it through all the way. However, my mother and I did, and we enjoyed it very much.
Yep. I'm not even embarrassed by that. It's just how it is.
It was
I
wild.
don't do scary things. So my number 2, I feel like you're going to have this one, Insidious.
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't really get too much into it. I'll let Katie get a little more in depth.
No,
with
go
it.
for it. I don't have a whole lot of notes on it, so.
Okay. I just think that this is an example of a scary movie that I genuinely think the plot is great.
Yeah.
The twists are there. It's scary. It's not super gory, and it's not overdone.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, if I'm thinking of kind of the perfect scary movie, I think Insidious is that. Once again, kids in scary movies are creepy as hell, and I don't like the children. I just have such great memories watching it, kind of like how we've talked about on the rest of this list. I so distinctly remember watching this one in Allie's basement and going to the bathroom, and then you guys had paused it on like that demon frame when I came out and I screamed. It was a fun time. And then I remember we went to go see Insidious 3 in the theaters.
I don't think I was there for that.
Were you not?
Because I don't think I've seen the third one. I think I've only seen the first 2 with like the original cast.
Okay. I never saw the 4th one, but I remember seeing the 3rd one in theaters, and that was just like a fun time. So I don't know. This is one that I think I would actually like to go back and rewatch because I remember really liking it, as well as the second one. So I would like to watch it more for the plot and the story than for just the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
But I will not do that unless if Katie agrees to watch them with me, which I'm sure you would.
I would love to actually watch both of those back to back.
That'd be awesome.
Sounds like such a good time. My number 2 is It, the 2017 remake of it. Although I do love the original. I actually don't know if I've seen the original. I wasn't there when you guys watched that.
I wasn't either.
Okay.
The original.
I've seen clips of it, and the original may be more horrifying than the revival of it. But I've really only seen the revival. This is like a recent scary movie viewing experience that I just hold near and dear to my heart. It's 2017, October. Michaela and Olivia, my 2 best girlies in the world, come and visit me in Iowa, and my Halloweens in Iowa are just so special to me because I got paid to make haunted houses. We just don't have to go down that road, people, but gosh, this season just brings me so much joy. But they come to visit me, and we just get absolutely plastered, and we go to the movie theater, and we do sneak in some beveraginos, and we just get absolutely wasted and watch this movie, which is so horrifying. It was just such a fun night, and the Uber fell through, so my roommate had to come get us. It was just a whole ordeal.
And we got in the car, and she was like, "You guys reek."
Yeah, it was just so fun. I wish we could recreate that night. Not the hangover I had the next day, but all of the experience aside, I genuinely think this one has a great plot. I love the kids in it. I think these child actors are incredible. That's like one of the most notable parts of the movie that critics and people have talked about since it came out, and I think it's genuinely horrifying. The monster in this movie is absolutely terrifying, and just the form it takes for each kid and resembling their deepest, darkest fear is so interesting to me. It's entertaining and fun to watch.
That genuinely, Katie, is one of my favorite movie-going experiences I've had in recent memory. That was so much fun. Because I remember we all had our flasks, but I had my sunscreen bottle flask, and it was like the middle of October.
Yeah.
And there were not that many people in the theater either, so at least we could kind of be like just ourselves and not really have to worry about disturbing anyone. Because obviously we were respectful, but I think there were maybe only like 4 other people in the theater, so.
Yeah, and we probably were talking the entire time.
But
And you
I
just
don't know,
hear
in my
like,
memory,
glug,
like
glug,
people
glug,
were
glug.
laughing with us.
I think they were too, yeah.
The problem that I have with this movie is that I'm so confused watching it because I find Bill Skarsgård so absolutely attractive. Like, I am so attracted to him. I think he's so hot. And then seeing him as Pennywise, it's just kind of confusing for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, honorable mention time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first off is The Shining. I did go to the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, which, is where it's all based at. So I did see that, or I watched that movie before we ever went. So that was a fun time. And then The Strangers, so terrifying and genuinely scary. Again, home invasion. I don't like it. Truth or Dare, one of the more recent ones that I've seen, but I just love the concept. I think it's super cool. And yeah, I think it's like genuinely a pretty good one for the past few years that I've seen. Sinister, the first one. The second one just fell a little more flat because you already know the twist, but the first one, when you don't know what's going on, wild. Would You Rather, which I don't know if I thought that there's another one that has recently come out under the similar name, but this one is with Brittany Snow. It's on Netflix. It's from like 2011 or something. Yeah. But again, it's the watching experience of it. I watched it with my roommate Rachel back in college, and it was so much fun between the two of us watching it. We were like picking along with the people what we would choose. And again, it was just enjoyable. A Quiet Place, that was a genuinely like really good scary movie. The Woman in Black, I remember that one so vividly from watching when we were little girlies and being like, what's Harry Potter doing in this movie? Two more, Paranormal Activity, but 2, 3, and 4 to be specific. I didn't like the first one, and I never saw 5 and 6. I think it ended at 6, but 2, 3, and 4 I remember the most. And then Oculus, finally.
Yeah, that one was scary too.
So a lot of honorable mentions, but as Katie and I said, like, even though scary movies are not movies that I watch on the regular, we have seen so many of them.
And they're like, I cannot stress this enough, like they are so definitive of our like middle school to early high school years. Yeah. That is such a nostalgic time for I think anybody, no matter what experience you had, I guess. And maybe you don't want to revisit the past. That's your business, girl, whatever. But I just love thinking about that time in our lives and in our friendship. Like, it's just such good memories. Such a simpler time when being not bad, but like, I don't know. It's hard to describe like what we were trying to evoke out of like watching these movies, but that was just a thing to do. Like, how scared can we get? Like, how scarred can we get from this experience? So anyways, yeah, my honorable mentions, I had a lot of the same ones as you. Quiet Place. I had Get Out on here. I don't know if people would consider that a scary movie. Cabin in the Woods. I remember the first time we watched that and it was a fun time, and then revisiting it recently, I did really enjoy it. Children of the Corn. I had to give it an honorable mention. That movie watching experience will forever be in my mind and in my heart.
The time for fertilization has come.
That we watched the revival of that one too, and the original version of that one, I again would argue, is like even weirder than the revival.
How could I see? This is what I'm talking about. Us filling in each other's gaps. I completely forgot about that.
Knowing, again, I don't know if that is like a horror movie. It's more of like a psychological end of the world type thing, but that one scarred me. And made me very scared of existential crises. So that was just another fun movie watching experience in Allie's basement. Shout out Allie's basement. I feel like before we started drinking, Allie's basement was like the hub of scary movies, and then Delaney's basement was the hub of drinking.
It really was.
Shout out both of y'all's basements. Orphan, obviously, honorable mention. The Grudge, scary. Insidious 2, I just love how the first and the second one tie into each other. Shining, Rocky Horror, I don't think anybody considers that a horror movie, but Truth or Dare I had on here too because I liked watching that movie. I thought it was genuinely good. Lucy Hale's kind of like scary movie vibes. So The Blair Witch Project is another one of those like camcorder ones. Pretty much anything from, like Michaela said, 2008 to like 2012 or even past 2012. We've probably seen it.
Yeah. There are a few more recent ones that have come out that I have wanted to see that I just haven't seen because we've all either been in like college or then I've been home and you guys have all still been off at college, and like I said, I'm not watching by myself, but I did want to see Blumhouse's new Fantasy Island one that again has Lucy Hale in
Yeah.
it. I thought that looked good. I wanted to see Ma with Octavia Spencer because I love
Do
Octavia
you
Spencer. And I'd love
remember
to see her.
that one called Mama? That one was
Yeah.
messed.
I do think you're right, Katie. We are definitely missing some. I mean, we did see the Saw movies or some of them when we were younger.
I was gonna
but those
mention
were
that
never our favorites.
when you were talking about that experiment movie, like it's kind of like the Saw movies. It sounds like a little
yeah,
bit.
it is Saw-esque, I guess. I'd say it's less gory, but also the Belko experiment like is fairly. It's more on the gory end of scary movies that I like.
Oh my God, Final Destination. I don't know if you would consider those horror movies.
How did we forget about those?
Those ones
Oh
are
my
wild
God.
too.
Especially, okay, so the roller coaster one, I don't remember which ones they all are, but the roller coaster one, the race car track one, and the highway one with the logs like flying backwards are the ones that like live the most memorably.
The race car track one I think I recently saw. Is that where the guy gets his ass sucked into the pool and his insides like come out of him through his butt?
I don't know.
That rubbed me so far the wrong way. I can't even tell you.
Who thinks about that?
Ugh, these people are kind of mess. Obviously, The Purge
I
too.
remember-
The Purge movies.
Oh, okay. See, so that's why some of these, when we were talking about like Get Out and The Purge and that, I did leave some of those off because I'm like, are they technically horror? Kind of. If we're counting The Purges, honestly, I would put The Purges like almost at number one on my list
Mhm.
because I do genuinely just really like those films.
Same.
Obviously, go listen to our Purge episode.
Yeah.
Sorry, going back to Final Destination quick, that girl that got LASIK surgery and like stumbles out the top of that skyscraper building has traumatized me. I don't want to get LASIK surgery.
Yeah, and like no one's driving behind a log truck anymore. I can tell you that much. Anybody who's seen
Nope.
that movie.
Now I want to go back and watch those too. We just need to be having more of these like movie days when you and I are just around and doing nothing.
Yeah,
we need
for
to
sure.
be making a point to do that. Okay, number one, grand finale, shall we? do it?
Yes.
I don't really need to get too much into this because we have an entire episode on this movie, but it is Orphan. So go ahead and check back and listen to that episode. Okay, has this movie traumatized me forever? Yes.
Absolutely.
Do I still have to flip the cover over when I reorganize my movie collection so I don't see Esther's face? Yes. However, that's why it has to be at the top of
Yeah.
my list. This movie has by far been the biggest scary movie that has stuck with me over my whole life. I genuinely am like so frightened of it. It like makes me sweat just thinking about
Yeah.
it. It's such a creepy concept. Kids in scary movies are terrifying, but the story is genuinely good, I feel, in this one. There's genuine plot and some character development to these people. in it.
Uh-huh.
It's not like The Loved Ones or When a Stranger Calls, where it's more just like a scary situation or just so wacky and outrageous. Like, yes, Orphan is outrageous, but also it's not like so far removed from the question that it seems that you can kind of like dissociate from it. It's just the most iconic scary movie to me personally. Like I said, check out our episode to get more into that. I just have so many fond memories of watching it with our friends and their pranks that they pulled on me with it, aka putting like 20 pictures of Esther in my locker sophomore year of high school and me screaming and some teacher coming out and being like, shush. And I was like, first of all, it's passing time. Second of all, do you see this? And again, it's a quotable film. Even just being a scary movie, I'm not your fucking mommy, and kicks her in the head and she sinks to the bottom of the lake. Bitch, that scene forever will live in my head. Yeah, it just had to be a number one. It is the most iconic for me in my life.
I love that. I love that memory from high school. Okay, my number one is Insidious, the first one. Although I do, for a hot sec, I had the second one instead of the first one because I love how the two tie together. I think it's the best scary movie sequel to ever be made. Just period. End of discussion. The first one was directed by James Wan. I think the music plays a huge role in any scary movie, and this one is like top tier scary movie music. I think the original compositions made for this film are out of this world incredible. Like if you think of the movie Insidious, at least for me, one of the first things that comes into my mind is The music, I love the aesthetic of the film too. I like how the house is modern and not this like creepy old place. And that just plays into the whole like, no, your son is the one who's haunted, not the house. Even after they move, it's just crazy. And then like the Tiptoe Through the Tulips, obviously the song that they brought in for this movie. I like how there is multiple monsters, I guess, in the film. The one who's after, I think Daniel is his name, I want to say.
Daniel.
Is his name Daniel?
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it.
The kid who's in a coma, basically, the red scary man who's after him, and then the woman wearing all black who's like after the man, the main character. There's so much going on, and the creepiness of the further and like this realm where dead people with unfinished business. It's just taking the haunting type movies to the next level. There are movies like Paranormal Activity where we're thinking about like ghosts and the dead living among us and stuff like that and still lingering and being here and wreaking havoc. But I just think the Insidious, at least the first two movies, really dig deeper and kind of make it more believable. Listen, I had my run-in with the paranormal, and this movie just like rings a little bit too true to my personal experience. Believe me if you want. If you hate me for saying that, whatever. I've been debating making a YouTube story time about my paranormal experience, but it's like one of those things where it's kind of hard for me to talk about because it was a very scary time in my life, and people just kind of laugh at me whenever I talk about it. But it's like, it's just hard for me to talk about. But that's another thing where it's like, that's why this one is my favorite, because it's so scary to me, so real and so spooky. I love the vibe of it. I think the actors are all great. I love the shots too. The one that you were talking about with the red guy, the quick shot of him in the corner. I just think that's brilliant and so terrifying. And when the dad does go into the further and all the dead people like standing around like mannequins is so haunting and chilling. And I think the second one, when we dig deeper into the woman dressed in black that's following the dad, I just love that more information we get about that and how creepy it is. So
yeah, those would be ones that I would like to see again, because I do remember them being like genuinely really good.
Yeah, so I think we did it.
That's our list. We could, I think, like, next spooky season, we could get even farther into, like, rewatching these and kind of do more of a dive. And I know this season, like, kind of snuck up on us and got away from us a bit with these. But, yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack with these. As Katie and I said multiple times throughout the episode, they were so formative in our younger years that it's fun to talk about and go back and revisit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so happy spooky season, everyone. This whole year has been spooky, but let's just enjoy this time. This may come as a shock, but neither of us have seen the iconic Halloween movie, Hocus Pocus.
I'm sorry. I already feel people getting mad.
I know, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say no comment. I don't know why. I've never seen this film. I'm sorry, but we will be watching it for the first time and discussing it on the pod, so.
People love it.
People do love it.
Love it. ColourPop just came out with a whole makeup collection around it.
Wow.
So.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why I've never seen it. I think I've sat down to watch it several times, and then I always have to like get up and go do something else. So I'm excited to finally cut out time to watch it. It's gonna be a good time, so stay tuned for more spooky season stuff. So be sure to check out the links in our description, as always, for different causes and things that you should be researching, I guess, or paying attention to.
Stay inside, stay safe, wear a mask, make sure you vote, and we will see you next week.
Lilas!
Lilas!